So, welcome to St. Patty's Day, Mad River Valley Recreation District Board meeting. We are focusing tonight primarily on, we're going to go through with the Attitude of Gratitude project and the Code of Ethics, get a Mad River Park path update, Laura's report, and then the strategic plan. And I'll just give you a heads up, Jeff and Jim, we're not going to talk too much about the content of the strategic plan. We're really talking about sort of the formatting of it. But you're welcome to leap in because one of the focus areas that we will cover is trails and facilities. And obviously, Scadium is in that bucket. So, all right. So we begin with the draft minutes from our last meeting, February 17th. Do we have any comments on it? Any revisions?
We also have to have somebody
Yeah.
take minutes this evening.
I can do it.
You can do that, Corey. Thank you.
Okay. Excellent job last time, Kevin.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Following footsteps of other great minute takers all the time.
Okay, so with regard to those wonderful minutes from last time, any comments on it or a motion to approve?
To move.
Okay, we have a motion on the table to approve. All in favor, say aye. Aye, okay. So approved, the minutes from February 17th. We are going to go over a little bit of, hopefully everybody's had a chance to look at the video, the Attitude with Gratitude video, and if there's any feedback on that, and then we're going to actually kind of tackle a little bit more granularly the code of ethics. So any thoughts on the video first?
One thing that came up at our CRV meeting was that it doesn't say Mad River Valley, it just says the Valley all the time. And that
I did notice that.
Yeah.
does not,
And were all the images from the Mad River Valley? Because some stuff I did not recognize.
well, I think there's very little possibility of change. I hope that the soundtrack for it can be changed, because there's also a comment about the hunters section. It was like we walk alongside the hunters. It was like what? Or somebody running, and so that
I cringed
somebody
there as well.
Kevin I think brought that up, and then other
No, you shouldn't.
it's being led by 3 people, and it got pretty far along before our input, which doesn't seem right, but it is where we are, and we tried to have impact. So hopefully,
I mean, I think overall it was feel good.
yeah.
It was nice to have it through the voice of a kid and
Yep.
experience all these places.
And the only other, and the soundtrack is not going to change, I don't think, at this point, was when she said dogs on leashes when birds are nesting. And I think our
Yeah.
leash requirements are a little bit broader than just when the birds are nesting.
Yeah.
So I don't know if those, but it really is a feel good and a wonderful. So thoughts about the code of ethics? I've pulled it
Pledge.
up, the pledge.
Is there a code of ethics as well as a pledge?
Yes, yes, there is.
Yeah,
There is. I mean, so the pledge
Yeah.
is, and I've got that pulled up right now.
because I can't.
Is very sort of high level theoretical, and I think they're really nice. And then with regard to my immediate thought was, well, what about more granular, specific details of codes of conduct on in different areas? And that actually, when you go into the activities, it does do that. So if you click on birding, there's a code of birding ethics. there is, so for, let's see if I can go into.
But that, what I think is a big missed opportunity and everybody, well, a large percentage of the people at CRB did is the link, that activities page, the links go beyond the valley, like it skips all the local stuff and you don't want people, just, you know, leaving your website and off to something else. And you want to tell people where the best birding trails are in the Mad River Valley. So we're trying to get those changes made, but
So they would be more like any camping one is the one that they use as an example of one that actually is here. It doesn't, it's a homepage on the Attitude of Gratitude, but then links to local things. Rather than immediately taking you off the Attitude of Gratitude
When-
website.
can you
Yeah.
go?
Yeah,
can you
right
go
here.
back?
So which one do you do
I
camping?
think camping is the one they use as, I was also
Okay.
at a
Okay, so they, I mean, in terms of categories, and most of the code of ethics, regardless of where you are, applies, whether it's mountain biking, but it would be nice to have it a bit more, so I'm gonna open up the camping one. Camping, and so it's camping responsibly in Vermont, leave no trace principles, Vermont camping resources, dispersed camping, and then it does have a section on camping in the Mad River Valley,
Which is minimal.
which
Yeah.
is pretty minimal.
Yeah.
So that was one of the biggest comments at that meeting was that you don't want people to leave your website so quickly and easily.
Mhm.
And you want to pull them into a little bit more wayfinding on the activities here in the valley. And I also thought that, you know, when I looked at the activities and I went, scrolled down and all of the icons of road biking, mountain biking, and the top line is there are many ways to experience our valley, and yet we're talking about a code of ethics or a code of conduct for each one of these endeavors, these recreational endeavors. And so when I look to experience our valley, is it about where the mountain biking is in the valley, where the birding is, where the snowmobiling is, or is it about a conduct of care? And so I wonder if that somehow that title needs to change. I like the idea that this is welcoming as opposed to being prescriptive. Sometimes you have it feels like a code of conduct or rules of the road feels prescriptive, but something that might be welcoming and encouraging that has, to experience our valley with responsibility, respect, and care. Something that
Well,
indicates.
yes, except that they never plan to put things in each of these. They're going for the big, beautiful thing, not the actual details. And I think it's a bit of a missed opportunity, some of these areas, especially with dogs and stuff like that.
I think it is too. I mean, I have a lot of feelings about this that I'm gonna try to tamper down, but I think it doesn't do enough to actually, like, it could, like, if under biking, Swell Hill is closed to hunting from this date to this date. Dana or How Block is, like, there isn't anything, it's very. what's the
Generic.
word? Generic, esoteric, it's like out there
Global,
and,
in some ways, I mean, it's, yeah.
and I don't know if that's the point, then I guess that's accomplished.
Where's this living?
It's gonna be a separate website that then all of the trails and rec groups link to.
So here, so I'm on the paddling one, and it doesn't have anything about paddling in the Mad River Valley.
Right.
And that's on the website of Attitude of Gratitude.
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah.
So-
Other than saying
They're
safe and
trying to-
responsible paddling in the Mad River Valley, that's all
Yeah,
that
sorry.
it says.
Yep.
So the feedback from Misha is that, who's gonna do this? If you want it done to have local references, then somebody needs to do
Have to
it.
write it, yeah.
And so there was a small talk that I think ended, when I don't know where, is that could each of the representative people at CRV, if you're the mountain bike person or if you're the trail person, that you take on that page. And I don't know if that was like, we're gonna do that or.
Well, this is the-
That.
CRV, there is no leadership, so there's
Right.
no actual decision making. So whoever just tries to take power runs with it. And so this is I don't, this is not how I thought it should be set up, but that's what's happening. So it's pretty hard to stop the train, you know,
Well, we could have feedback as a group if we came to consensus that we want it to be more about the Mad River Valley and more about how to be a responsible steward here, not just everywhere,
Mhm.
if that's how we all feel.
well.
We might not go anywhere.
No, I agree. I mean, this is why I said to him, we can't have immediate feedback. We're having a board meeting. We're gonna talk about it. Eh, You know, what's the rush? We've never had a code of ethics for River Valley. We don't have to launch it immediately. Or we could launch part of it. He wants to be done with it. He's coming into his field season. He's got a lot of other things to do. What we need to go through now is the 5 screens behind that attitude of gratitude, the pledge. And then I think there's a big opportunity to use social marketing to get, and that's something that Ira and I have gone to some classes about. There's this book that there's a lot of ways, like you could have famous people taking the pledge and you quote them in a newspaper article or on the website. You could have anybody who takes the pledge, then their name is listed on the website. So you have momentum in the community. That's what, like, you know, it's like peer pressure. So what social marketing is about, right? So I think we have a lot of opportunities to do that. I think that if we looked at each slide now, we might be able to add something that's a little bit more specific. I don't think there's enough teeth in this.
So are you meaning that would the broad be present in the moment, the honor the natural world, right? Those ones?
There's yet a click on it and there's.
Yeah, I know. So is that what you,
Yes.
as opposed to the click on it? Doesn't want to click on it. Wait a minute.
There used to be, maybe I'm wrong about that.
No, I don't
So
think it goes.
these are the pledge ones. Be present in
Right.
this very moment.
No, it doesn't. It's.
Yeah, no, all right. It was,
And so the
When we
the
enter this tour, we
descriptors
should
are
be-
down below in a narrative
right,
format.
then that's what we should look at to see if there's anything we want to add there. Or is there something more important than those 5?
Well, no,
I mean,
it's
the-
actually somewhere else.
Yeah.
If you go to home,
Right.
that's where it says take the pledge, and then you can take that's
So
those are the 5
those are the
bullets
5, right?
Right.
that you want.
Right.
Something about process, I just want to ask, is in that meeting, it was very clear, no, somewhat clear, no changes to the film. And not a lot of enthusiasm from some people in the room to do changes in general. But if CRV is a group, there's no leader, then is it okay? Because are we gonna do all this work and take it to the group and they're gonna say, we're not changing it?
Well, it wasn't the group that said they weren't
Right,
changing.
right, I know. Right, so I think it's worth it. And
I do too. I mean, I think, you know,
because it is representative of us as well, as the rec district, so it should.
Right.
But I think that we're gonna meet some.
So are you proposing that?
Pushback.
No, well, no, I think that it always is helpful to a large group like CRV, 15 members, right? Partners.
yes,
All of whom are volunteers that kind of look at this and go, I can't do anymore. Can we do more insofar as saying, okay, and what would that look like? So if you go into the homepage, are you more interested in the pledge or in having a code of conduct, the code of care, responsibility for each one of the recreational areas? And what could we do? I mean, we would have to do something that would be, say, okay, I'm willing to look at each one of those, have a common format for each one. Here is a code of ethics, code of conduct for this one. It may be extracting from the ones from elsewhere, from the Green Mountain Club or whatever. And then we're willing to do, here's a little narrative that is site specific to the Mad River Valley. A lot of work on our part, but sometimes doing that work in advance allows us to bring something to the CRV board that says, here's something that is well underway. And they may turn around and go, great, thank you. It's well underway, rather than say, yeah, we're willing to author it. So I think I think we're kind of stuck with the willingness of members of CRV. How far are they willing to go in taking this feedback and actually diving in and doing some of the revisions, or do we do it ourselves and provide it?
I do think that there was a lot of people in agreement about things they wanted to have changed.
Right.
I think what was in agreement is who's going to do it.
Bingo.
And it just, the meeting gets moved along very quickly. It's hard to, so people would say things like, well, I don't like this, and then be like, okay, make a note, go on, you know, so there wasn't a
Mhm.
lot of dialogue.
And that's especially true when meetings are once every
Quarter.
Yeah,
Quarter.
so you're trying to fit it
Yeah.
on in. And like you said, is everyone already is I mean, I think it is an opportunity for we wanted to do something like this as a rec district, right? Have a code of ethics. So, which is not this, but
So let me back up and ask that if that's the
that's.
that is, I mean, I happen to agree with that. We have to, think about purpose and audience and then our own capacity. And if there is at this point no immediate rush, the video is there, this website is there. Can we see ourselves getting through our strategic plan? Maybe it becomes part of our strategic plan or a vision. But can we see ourselves getting through the strategic plan and hopefully by May? And then we turn our sights on this and develop subcommittees to work on this. A lot of work. Laura's going, oh my God.
Yeah. I don't know if that would be possible.
Yeah, and
because of the people involved.
unless
That's a reason to not try them. I know you're
I-
much more into
I
this
would
than I
love
am.
for you- No. I think you tagged it immediately when you said, so there's nobody in charge and there's no funding mechanism for CRV. And I mean, that's what I was like fighting for before it became this kind of group that somebody tries to seize power on one project and then takes it and runs with it. I think that, first of all, I think we're not going to be through with our strategic plan by May. I think that's a heavy lift. That's 2 months away. I do think if anybody wanted to help work on this now would be the time, but we have to have really specific things we want changed. The video is a whole thing because it was very expensive and and they don't even, I have some ideas of how to get it out for people to see, but I'm not so sure people have worked on that. But this, looking down at this pledge, is there something more important than these 5? That's what I keep thinking. What, like, if you look at that, what's missing? I mean, I am concerned that it's not specific enough. And that, like, the dog issue is huge in our valley. It's also, if you read Alice showed me the thing in Vermont Digger about dogs in Montpelier. It's just, like the third rail of politics. And each of our towns has different statutes for dogs. But you can't just make it so general that nobody understands and then nobody puts a leash on their dog in the towns where that's needed. So it's pretty complicated. But I don't believe there was ever going to be a pledge up at those lower levels.
So are you thinking, and again,
At the specific, I don't mean lower level, at the specific activity level.
Right. That each one of these 5 big idea
Mhm.
commitments would have sub bullet points?
If you go
Or do you-
further down and you read what's under each of them, well,
No, you have to go back. I have to go
okay,
back
you have
into
to go
home.
back to,
The narrative is in home.
okay,
So-
that's what we need to look at is,
So we would be going through and you would say, let's take what is here and have some bullet points underneath that are specific to the valley, that are on a more granular level. So for example, the natural world's right to exist, this might be a place for dogs, or recognize that access is a privilege. That might be a place where you have dogs. So is
Yeah, so that very last one, go back to that one.
welcome each person, or
Can be, the
Oh,
convenient
choose
one that
narrow.
actually has bullet points.
Mhm.
Okay, so to me, that's a better slide than the others because it's got specific action items that you can take to choose care over convenience, right? So the other ones, that narrative form, I think, just,
okay.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to
right,
suggest that if we dive into that, taking a more granular look at these more high level pledges
mhm.
with bullets underneath, there is time, is there not, to modify this website?
It should be a piece of cake to modify this website.
Okay.
At any point in time, is what I think. I mean, I taught myself Squarespace and I do our website. I don't know what platform this is on, but it should be easy to have somebody in-house be able to make some changes.
So is the thing to do, just to, as a thought, as a way for us to keep moving along, at least at a brainstorm level, I can turn this into a Google Doc. We can share it, and are there bullet points, send it around to everybody and say, throw in some bullet points. We're not gonna do it right now. We don't have the time to do that right now. But are there bullet points that you feel that are much more specific to the valley and to certain recreational assets that we have here in the valley? Does that make sense to try to do it
Yeah,
that
but it
way?
has to be done like in the next week, but we can't drag this out. I mean, because it's,
That's why I was asking.
The website could be,
well, all right, I have to find out if the,
yes, of course.
changing to the website. Because also your website shouldn't stay static either. It should have some interesting ongoing changes and things.
I think it's worth also having in that Google Doc a place to comment on the overall aesthetic of the website, because I do think there should be something that looks like the Mad River Valley right off the bat, whether it's our logo, the town, you know.
Yeah, I mean,
Who is the primary creator of the website?
well, Sam Robinson did the website, but the art was done by somebody else.
Okay.
I think
And
it's-
And there's no connection to, the one thing that came up, Eric Friedman is now on CRV, which is great, because we never had the chamber involved, which is always a missed opportunity, right? The person just rotated, never showed up and stuff like that. But anyway, he said like he's worked really hard to brand the Mad River Valley with that one logo that like we
Yeah.
use, everybody using, and it's not on here at all.
That's the logo I meant.
Yeah,
Yeah, there needs
and-
to be something that.
That makes it,
unifies-
and I think anytime when you say take the pledge, it could just be, you could have that logo right there.
And even the colors that the valley often uses in their
Right.
logos, and we talked about these trees that's not look like the forest around here.
Yeah. I mean, this is, the only way we're gonna we may not be successful in getting changes, but the only way we have a hope of getting changes is to be specific.
Yeah.
And offer alternatives.
So I think that should go in the Google Doc too, is like, besides just the 5 areas of pledge,
But-
it's like overall aesthetic.
Right.
And he doesn't wanna change the logo, like things like that, I thought. There's things that you put. So not that, but I just think it needs to be based a little bit more in this place.
I totally agree, and now we have to figure out how that can be accomplished. I do think though, when you look at the 5 things on the pledge, like, is there something that is more important? Are we missing something? Does the Green Mountain Club have any kind of a pledge or anything like this that,
Not specifically, there's some more general hiker code of conduct.
yeah,
Pack in, pack out.
Leave no trace, those sorts of things.
Yeah.
In bulleting out under each of the pledges is the expectation that in signing on to the pledge, you're following each of these bullets that we have now? Because I think there is some value in having 5 very broad things. So as not to, push people away or like, now I gotta read more in order to answer this pledge. I do think there's value in it in the broad.
Well, I think that thinking about the design of the website and the user interface. So the broader pledge, and then you go into the activities themselves, which I feel like they should be more connected specifically to the valley. And maybe that's where some of those other bullets need to be. So I know that when I go up and I hike, it's a dog on a leash.
I think you can have it, right, when you lay it out, right, because as this is, the 5 points are very simple, and then they go into the granular, so maybe you do, at some of these levels, leave them very simple, the overarching, and then the granular stuff.
And not to be overly daunted by our capacity to say, we're going to tackle this website and in the next 10 days, dial it in. I think we should be open to the possibility of other avenues to communicate some of those granular specifics, whether it's on our own website in terms of here are activities and here's a code of conduct for this, this, and this, and this. Whether it's when we think about the kiosks and funding for those, that certain locations, if you're going up to Blueberry Lake and it is October and hunting season, there should be a wayfinding sign, something about, October to da-da-da is hunting season kind of thing. And those are the kinds of things that I think we could help with. It may not, who's the audience? Where's the home? Who's going to be looking at this? Is there another way to skin this cat and get the message out without us trying to be web designers in the next 10 days?
Yeah, I was thinking it would be like for dissemination, that there'd be like a QR code at a trailhead or at a rec site.
Yeah,
Something
that's,
like that.
yeah, that's,
That the
there's gonna be
idea.
a QR code at, yeah.
But I
On
think
signs at
Eric
kiosks.
kept, I believe it was Eric who kept asking the question, and what is the point? Like, what comes from this? So you have people take a pledge, and then, so one of his points that was interesting has been collecting all these email addresses. Could we use them to solicit funding? But there's 15 different organizations, so no, you can't do that. So then where does this go?
Exactly.
How do we know if it's making a difference? Or, and that might have, if you think about what you're trying to accomplish, it kind of helps you figure out how you want to design it. And so what is the point?
The point is to get Valley residents and visitors to take better care of our natural resources, the trails, not to leave poop bags on the trails,
So that's more granular than this.
Believe me,
right?
I'm the granular girl. I've
Yeah.
tried to get to things that are, and that, it's just, 3 people volunteered to do this, one of them led it, and that's where we are.
How do people even know about this? How are they going to know? How are the
Where is it
tourists?
launched? Where is it?
Is it the
Well-
Chamber of Commerce that's gonna do this or?
We are going to have a launch, like a community forum, like we did for CRB. This is part of CRB. Then each organization will will link to this website. We're also gonna do presentations like last year, when CRB 1.0 ended and the big grant funded piece ended. We started with this new version of CRB. I went to like 13 organizations and presented our accomplishments and what we're viewing as the future. I volunteered to do that. We'd also do it at schools. Part of this is getting young people aware of taking care of nature, not leaving trash, understanding it's a privilege. We have a patchwork of trails in our area, that are on private town, state, federal lands, and people don't know where they are. You know, one trail crosses in between all that sometimes. And so, you know, you go to the higher level to, you know. So it actually started as a need years ago with some sections of the path being closed because landowners didn't like dogs or trash being left on their property, et cetera. So that was the impetus of it. And then now, and Stewart, Stewart MRV came out of that, you know, so there's been things that are like a little bit integrated. But this doesn't integrate to Stewart MRV, which is another frustration because that's really, you know, there's like 20 some volunteers that steward each
Mhm.
different site around the valley, and that really should be integrated with this.
You know, the
So-
way when you're talking, it's kind of like, maybe if you just, if it didn't say that recognize that access is a privilege. If it said like more just plainly, like. I don't know, part of it is the language of it is
Yes.
very, feely.
Lofty.
and
It's
lofty,
Yeah,
yeah, so-
esoteric, it's,
That's the
yeah.
word that I keep coming to, is
Yeah.
esoteric. So when what you're saying is that we have lost some access, we've lost some trails. That's gonna continue to happen because of noise, because of dogs, because of trash. And so then if that's the point, then this needs to say that, right?
So I'm thinking, you know, as we think about audience and who we're reaching and how we're reaching them. And Mike, you had a point, I don't want to cut you off because you were about to. It seems to me that the captive audience usually is quite literally at the access point. Where you're putting in to paddle, where you are entering a trail to hike. It seems like that's where those granular pieces will be received and noted. You know, if you go to a campsite and it's very clear about building a campfire and what you need to do, and it's very clear. Is that where we go with this?
I think some of the, I'm just looking at the order of the way they wrote this. You know, be present in this very moment. It's very ethereal. It's very
It's even a better word.
zen, kind of like. More importantly, it's recognize that access is a privilege. That's
Yeah.
really the point.
Yeah, and maybe
Yeah.
you even change that to something
The
more
order,
like,
yeah.
you're crossing private land on these trails.
Be
Be
respectful.
respectful, like something, that's not good, but you know,
Yeah,
something.
Start
that's-
with more of the concrete
Yeah.
level, moving to the higher
Yeah.
level. kind of
Yes.
ethereal.
That's, I read the honor the natural world's right to exist. That was like,
Maybe the natural.
you know, just say like, respect the natural environment or something like that. Cause that gets into like nature's rights. That's like a whole.
I know, but
Yeah.
that,
I also think it turns some people off.
I
Like,
agree.
my husband,
Oh.
I had him read this and he's just one of those people who's like, what, be present in this very moment, you know what shit I have going on, like, it's like.
Well,
It's just like,
well,
it
it
immediately
was,
turns it off.
it did say, leave your devices at home, turn off your cell phone, and I'm thinking like, I don't think
That's
that
It's
is
the only way
people
to
that
find
train
trails
their
around
cell
here.
phones at home.
There's no trail
A lot of
signs.
women hike with a cell phone for a safety reason. There's just, you know, so it was some of it was rather prescriptive. And then we did some editing to get to this, and then editing got done. That, I don't know how it got done, so.
So I think that in an effort for us to continue moving along with our objectives on the agenda and not dismiss the importance of doing this work, it seems to me that the next step for us is whether I put it into a Google Doc and let's zip that around and say, okay, I think we all agree that this is all this very high level. Let's really get narrow in terms of what specific concrete behaviors are we looking for. And just zip that around and see if we can help. And then once we have those identified, then we can back up and go, okay, now that we know this is our objective, what's the best way to communicate it? It may not be on this website because I don't know where this lands and who's going to open it up and look at it.
Did you have something to say, Mike? Did you wanna?
I mean, the only thing I would say is the projects get created all the time and some are better than others and they have a span. So I would understand what the scope of possibility is with this and then calibrate our time and effort that way. I think it does have value in its own right, you know, providing a set of shared expectations for free, open public resources that have no enforcement mechanism. You know, this is a common way to do that. It's a baseline of expected behaviors. And there's likely that this is a foundational body of work that can be built on. And with the hiker code doesn't flow from the hiker code or out. It's captured by all these different organizations and then disseminated out through those groups. And so there may be some life beyond this. So I would just, you know, it's a good body of work, but I'm not sure how much time and effort we're going to put in and how it's going to really change it. So I just want to be really thoughtful about that and balance it against the other things that this board needs to do in this situation.
Because we have the skiers code of conduct too, which is very specific for skiing, like the hikers code. And so people that ski should know what the code is, but it's not, you know, it's not all encompassing about the beauty of the Mad River Valley. And, you know, if you're gonna go through, you know, Slide Brook and Skin Up or whatever, and give all the specifics about that, it's kind of a generic thing to.
I mean, if I was from away and I came here and I stumbled across this website, I would come away from it at least understanding that people here care and that there's some organized shared stewardship. And that may be enough to get people to think about how they're using the resources that we have no control over, no way to track. So
And then you try to capture the audience at the trailhead.
yeah,
Or
there's other.
But I
points
think
of-
that's the part that like trips me up, because I'm so glad you brought all those points up, is that if we are taking real estate on these kiosks with a QR code that goes to this, then is it a missed opportunity to have something more granular and prescriptive? If, you know,
I think it is.
You need a landing page for each site, right?
Yeah.
With all that information.
It's hard when you go to some of these links and there isn't something meaningful. So I think that's the weakness of the tool. Is that if it's trying to be a be all of accessing information in the valley, that's not what this is. And I don't think we put in weeks of work, we're probably not gonna get there.
Yeah.
so would it be helpful for us to at least zip this around as a Google Doc and say, okay, let's just throw in some concrete behaviors. Do it by Jeopardy. You can do it either the category is higher level thinking or a specific recreation activity. And then we can work backwards from that and ask, what's the best way to get that out?
like you said, maybe it becomes part of our website one day and.
This?
No, we have our developed.
Our prescriptive.
Prescriptive code of ethics.
Or maybe just a link.
Yeah,
But we wanted to have this conversation as long as I've been part of it.
Yeah,
this
that's right.
Idea, so it's not like we're doing.
no, it's not. We just missed the window for really impacting it.
Okay, so that will be our next step in terms of brainstorming. Not a lot of investment, just a quick zip around, pop in your ideas. So I will close that out. And our next agenda item is a Mad River Path update. As you know, the path was successful in having Waitsfield and Warren fund the part-time person who will help implement the corridor. And so, where's my,
And they only went to those two towns
yes.
Yeah,
Because it was specifically about the path between one and two.
So our next piece of the puzzle, and again, Laura, maybe you can help us in terms of timing, the degree to, I hate to keep kicking the can down the road, but I'm also trying to keep our eye on the prize of our priorities for our own meetings that only meet every 4 weeks, and the strategic plan is a higher priority, I think. The question is whether or not we will write a letter of support. So I did communicate with Misha about, well, been about 3 or 4 weeks ago. We had a couple other questions. And I can go over what his response was. And before I dive too far into that, Laura, let's ask a timing question. How soon does he need a letter of support? And is that something that we are actually willing to entertain as an organization as opposed to a member of CRV?
He hasn't asked for that letter in the past 6 weeks, which tells me that maybe he's not.
Doesn't need it anymore.
Well, the original thought, he wanted CRV to send one letter and have all 15 organizations sign it. And I said, I don't think that's appropriate because, I'm one person and I'm not even a voting board member representing the rec district. I said, to do that, we'd have to have a letter and then have each of these boards approve it, and that didn't suit him. And so I honestly, he thought a letter from CRB was gonna have a bigger impact on funding organizations. Well, there's hardly any funding out there, and I think that's slowed. He's gotten there's been a lot of no's. He is waiting for some. One of the parts of the presentation he gave us is, there's different segments. And I kept asking the question, how much money is in hand? You asked that and it never got answered. And I think he has 80 or 100,000 in hand for this project that's probably more than 5 million. So
Sorry to
Yeah.
interrupt, but your Zoom restarted, so I don't think it's recording. Or is it
okay.
still recording?
Yeah,
Okay,
I think it
So
is.
okay.
I'm going to
Yeah.
interject so that we don't do too much spinning of our wheels.
Mm.
I have a proposal, and that is he's looking for this implementation coordinator
Mhm.
who will be looking for grants. That person, as they look for grants, they're going to know what they need in terms of letters of support. I propose we wait until they hire that person and they come to us and say, we need X. Can you do X for us?
Yeah, I would want to know who the funder, like.
You don't want to write a generic.
Right, I would
Yeah.
want to, I would want to customize it to the funding source, like if
Mhm.
you're getting money from the Koch brothers, maybe that's not something. We want to, maybe, or maybe
Yep.
we do, I don't know, but it would be helpful to know.
Right.
But I am frequently asked by my peers in the rec trails community to
Restarted again.
write a letter of recommendation for a specific grant, but it's usually not anything like controversial. Like this is a different, bigger thing because it has environmental impact. There's really not much funding in hand. There's things that maybe it's not other times I've been asked to write a letter. It's something really basic. They're usually going to the state for a grant for building a new trail or something that we're aware of. And
I mean,
so
we're more like, I just think that it's more appropriate for whoever that coordinator is to come to us and say, I need X or Y. And then if we're out on the street and out and about, I would suggest that we sort of follow our talking points that we were going to use at the town meetings. If somebody says, well, what do you feel about the corridor? I mean, how does the rec district feel about the corridor? And our response, at least consistent with our talking points, we support the concept of the corridor with an eye to funding feasibility and operate or being built consistent with the principles of conservation, recreation, visioning. Is that where we are? Those are our two big, and I don't want to say we conditional upon or, but we support it with an eye to the funding feasibility and ultimately the environmental integrity of the construction. Hey, are we good?
Yes.
Excellent.
What about the path? Everyone knows that the path and the riders are joining, right?
Mhm. And I'm curious, does that mean that all of they become, financing becomes intermingled, or how does that?
You can't because the riders get funding through VIMBA.
VIMBA.
So that has, we had a Trails Committee meeting last night, and we're trying to maintain the Trails Committee as a group that would work with the path to work on mountain bike trails.
So what's the purpose of the merger?
Well, resources from the path, because there's no paid staff person on the riders, and they're feeling like they don't get a lot done, but I think the riders, I don't think the Trail Committee gives themselves nearly as much, I mean, they do a lot. But that is the hope, is resources. But interestingly enough, the riders have to match half of the salary of the trails person for the first year. So there's some.
Sounds like you should kind of spread yourself thin, but maybe we'll see. I mean, it's a lot.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
Just a general comment on letters of support and there.
Yeah,
It's not
thanks.
wrong, but you can take up a ton of time like doing letters. So if Misha's goal was to have a letter that can be used for multiple grants, so he doesn't have to come back every time, there's value in that if the board is aligned on the scope of intent of the project. But if that's unclear, then it may be done, it may need to be
Yeah.
done in individual letters, but yeah, I guess I would want to avoid a situation where you're spending your time doing just letters and not doing other things. So that's-
Yeah, I don't think they have enough opportunities to apply for that, that's gonna be. Cause they've applied for a number of things and they're either waiting or they've
Okay.
gotten new, I mean, a lot of money, dried up in these
Yeah.
past couple of years, so.
And I'm happy to work with you, Laura, and we could do one generic letter.
Yeah, and believe me, I
And
have
then we
some
have-
generic letters that
Yeah, I'm sure you-
So we have
Yeah.
something in,
Pretty quick, but
ready to
yeah, I
go.
appreciate that, yeah, and who knows, if. The halftime position that they're seeking has been advertised is part grant writing and part implementation and part permitting. So that person, if they're working 20 hours a week, it's not all grant writing, so I don't think the demand will be that high, but thank you, yeah.
Okay, so we're going to move on then to Laura's executive director report.
Alright, thank you. Doug agreed at the last, these are two updates. Doug agreed to us being the fiscal sponsor for the Bear Initiative. The board had voted yes, pending Doug's approval. He said yes, and he's actually accepted a check from them for just under $2,000. And now we are the fiscal agent for the Bear Initiative, and we're also the fiscal agent for the Mad River Valley Dog Park.
Yep.
So thank you, Doug, for those
Thanks again.
extra efforts. The Bear Initiative people were so grateful. They couldn't believe it. Like we said yes quickly, and they're like, wow, that's so welcoming. Thank you. And then the Warren Recreation Committee voted unanimously to give the dog park $1,000 of their budget toward the Wi-Fi at Brooksfield. So they're getting a little bit of help for that.
Right, nice.
Swim lessons, we have 11 kids who started last Sunday taking swim lessons through Waterbury Rec. It's at Sharp. And another 10 or so families were interested. I asked them to send me an email if they were interested. It went out through the 4 schools PTO or the school, because it's only for first or second graders, so we didn't want to publicize it on Front Porch Forum and things like that too broadly. So another 10 families were interested. In the end, they either had conflicts with dates or they didn't follow the directions and set up an account at My Rec and put the lessons in the cart and check out without paying. It turned out to be way too much work for the Waterbury people. They were so kind about it. But if we do it for the summer, we have to have little bit of a different process. And I'm talking to Erica, the new executive director there, to make that work. And I think it would be great. I mean, I think there's a lot of interest. People love that. One thing that it made me realize something else I was doing. When I know I've been collecting infrastructure updates from different groups around the valley, and when I finally got the one from the playground at Warren Elementary, they don't mention ever getting funding from us. We've given them $10,000 now. And it made me realize, like, we really should maybe make a requirement that people give us credit on their websites funded by, because that's how we'll get the word out. It's taxpayer money. And so it's probably something for us to be more specific on when we talk about grants. But, like, I think the Mad River Path in their report had listed a grant from us, but I don't see that on other websites. And I think we might really want to make that a requirement. I don't know. So,
I know that we had talked about that when we did our follow-up with each organization. We contacted them, and one of the questions was, how do you spread the word in terms of your grants from the rec district? And maybe we need to formalize that in the grant process itself.
and CRV, I don't want to belabor what we've already said, but there's a new community planner, Franny Hogue, at the planning district. She did a great job on the minutes, which I think all of you got. She's trying to, get the word out more, the 15 people that attend, but to their boards and things. And the June 4th, maybe a kickoff at the big picture for the attitude of gratitude and the code of ethics, with a potential date. We need improved signs at the rec hub. We have an inventory of the kiosks. There's 60 plus branded kiosks in the Mad River Valley. The path is going to update that list. Some of them have been around for 10 years, so some of them need like repair. Some of the posts that they're on have started to deteriorate. And many of them just need updates, and especially if we're going to have a QR code for the code of ethics, things like that.
Yeah, who is responsible for those?
Well, when it was set up 10 years ago, different groups claimed different kiosks. So I look back at the list, and some have it's shared by 4 groups. Some of them have just riders so it's this mishmash, and then some of them are like facing Conservation Commission, or I think it's going to be a surprise to some of these groups that they are the point person
Responsible for it.
So I've been saying, please, let's update this list. Let's get it out. We have that 38.
Yeah, 34,
30, just under 35,000.
3491.
And I had said that's available, but Josh originally got the grant, gave his nod to having that used for better signs at the rec hub or improving the kiosks. So, that plays into CRV not having a real funding mechanism, but we do have some reimbursements coming in from the Lake Champlain Basin program that could be used for different things.
It did come up at the Trails Committee meeting because businesses have been approaching us about the kiosks that are falling down. And their question was, who is responsible? The flatbread one, I guess, needs work. And so they asked me to ask you, are they responsible?
Certainly
I think-
not them.
Well,
no.
the
Well, I mean,
riders
I'll pull up the list,
/ trip
but it was a little, this is what I'm saying, it's a little surprising, and, it was agreed to 10 years ago by somebody who may not still be there, or
Right.
on the board, or whatever, so
So are you gonna send an email to those organizations about which ones they're responsible for?
this is what I think, the path is doing the update on the spreadsheet. Their intern Abby is gonna do that, so I don't know, that's what I would do. I would send the whole, say, hey, this is what you signed up for. And, how are you gonna be able to have a look at it, see what it needs, and then we should go through all of them and see, some of them do have a blank 8.5 by 11 space that could be used for something like hunting, like an update. The 11, 12 major kiosks have something that could be a rotating sign. We should be using that more often for different impacts. But anyway, that's in process.
Quick question, am I correct? I know 10 years ago, and I don't think I was even on the board. But the point of origination for this was through the planning district.
Mhm.
Okay, but there is nothing that in their records that go back and say, okay, this
It's a
is.
spreadsheet, I'm talking.
Is it, okay.
Yeah,
So
but it's not very specific, because
Adam's doing.
more
okay.
than half of them have 4 owners, so, you know, that,
Okay.
so you can't go to one. So Riders has their name on like 30 or 40 of them, you know, you know what I mean, so yeah, so. Well, I'll look that one up for you.
Okay.
And the Mad River Fields Committee,
Matthias,
Kevin,
question?
is
Let me,
gonna talk.
Stacy,
about-
on the
Sorry,
kiosk.
question about
Yeah.
the kiosk. So if the idea is to repair the kiosks and get them functional, but they're gonna put a QR code that's gonna go to attitudes of gratitude. And do you wanna wait? Should they wait until it's
Two
all?
separate things. Have you looked at kiosks? We're talking about the posts need repairing.
Okay,
And then on the signs, there's a map that's specific to that site.
okay,
And then there's other things. So sometimes there's information about dog, like there's no poop area, you know.
right.
So there's
Yeah, I see
each
what
one, they're not, well, they are unique because there's a map of what it is there. So, you know, 11, 12 are major kiosks, I mean, 2 posts and they're bigger. And then the other ones are minor kiosks, 1 post. So the repair needs is on those posts that are wood that are deteriorating.
And then futuristically, the QR code would be added when it's,
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
this again is a whole, you know, you know, I think we should get a picture of each one of these. And then we can have set a priority about which it is in greater need of update or repair. And then it should be, you know, then we have to figure out the funding for all of it. Because I don't think the organizations that agreed 10 years ago are really gonna be that excited about ponying that money out. I don't know.
And then another little thing is the Riders Trail Committee now was wondering if they can put a QR code on the kiosks that go into mountain bike land to raise money for trail running. So I don't know who.
Like, who
would-
makes that?
Who
Yeah,
makes that
Who gives the yay or
This is
nay?
what is, yeah,
The kiosk committee.
well.
Is that the
You know
planning
what?
district?
Because
Oh,
Misha will be the executive director of both organizations. Probably
But he
slammed
doesn't
up
own the
for you.
kiosk.
What?
Riders and the path are on the kiosks,
True.
so who does? We don't know.
Well, it's joint ownership through,
Well, is ownership the right word or is
No.
responsibility the right word?
Oh,
Or,
the landowner owns it.
Yeah.
yeah,
what did you say?
Right, the landowner owns it. probably.
it's on their land.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
someone's responsible for upkeep.
Well,
Um,
because most of these mountain bike parks have some sort of funding mechanism for the trail crew, right? I mean, the budget to maintain those trails every summer is huge and it's
Right.
all on. The public does not contribute at all to that.
Does that all come from VIMBA funding?
Bimba and then like the events they do, the Grateful Gravel and the Cranko and stuff like that. Which
Yeah.
again, this is all changing, but just they wanna do that. And I'll just say kiosks are a little up in the air for now.
yeah,
See if you can find a kiosk committee. When you do, let us know.
Kiosk.
all right, Kevin, do you wanna talk about the?
Sure. I can be quick.
Fields Committee?
The Madison Park Fields Committee met last Monday. Bear called that meeting. Met at her house. We had Dan Sullivan, Matt Lillard, Steve Haskell.
Yeah.
And then myself. There was one person missing. We
Matt
talked.
Lillard, was he there?
Yeah, he was
Yeah,
there.
he was there, okay.
That's the other member. We talked strategic plan and enhancements. I could save that for later. I think the more immediate updates for the board though are that, as usual, we're targeting April 15 for field opening. They'll likely revisit that as the day approaches. We want to do a green up day at the park on April 25th. Leases have been executed.
I got the lacrosse one, you know.
Oh, good. We need to procure a mowing contractor. I think Bear's already mentioned that. We might ask that contractor about whether they'll handle the irrigation too, so make sure we're not trying to mow and we're trying to mow while we're trying to irrigate at the same time.
Are you gonna ask them to do the irrigation?
We'll see what, I think the idea is we'll see what it would cost for them to do the irrigation too. Not to say that we'll definitely have. but-
Yeah, because there's no money in the budget for that, and it could be
Sure.
kind of a whopper.
Yeah, I've
but,
learned that
Yeah,
it's mostly Steve Haskell, but getting the equipment out is like really a person job. There was talk about like, if we get our hands on an old four-wheeler or four-wheeler to like drag it out. I guess there is some small. Well, we talked about some like smaller equipment maintenance needs, so there's some piece to the irrigation system that Steve needs. We need some more no parking, no dog signage, and folks think it's time for a grade of the parking lot out there.
There's been a lot of activity in that parking lot. Is that official activity or is it
I don't think it's official.
people doing donuts?
Probably the latter. It's a sheet of ice out.
I know. I was surprised. Like at one point I saw like 6 cars there. It looked like they were doing something official, but
Yeah, I don't know.
like a little early to be on that field, right?
Yeah. And we did get a good head start on talking town strategic plan stuff, but I'll save that for that part of the discussion today.
Okay.
April
Yeah.
25th is first thing, but.
Yeah, Yeah, no, I guess that's the way it works, like they shoot for April 15th opening and then
Oh.
gives the field the week to rest before they pick back up. So yeah, I can see there being conflicts, but that seemed to be like the best day we could think of.
great. Thanks for
Jumping in there.
Yeah.
being part of that
That's
and
great.
reporting back to us.
Wait, all right, done with the executive. All right, strategic plan. So, let me thank you, Mike, for sending that template from the Green Mountain Club. I thought it sort of fits the scope of what we're attempting, so that it would end up being a roughly a 6 to 8 page document. So let me pull that up. Did you guys have a chance to look at it? In terms of just structure?
Yeah, I thought it was great, simple, yeah, something try to replicate.
Does that work? I realized in the Green Mountain Club one, you guys had outcomes. Is that correct? And so I changed the language a little bit so that we have goals, which would be overarching goals, why a particular focus area is in fact a focus area. Why did we select it as a focus area? Why is it important? What values? How does it reflect our values and community needs? And then objectives would be more granular. Those would be your action steps to get to those larger goals. So any thoughts on that, or would we feel like that's a good structure? And again, this may, as you begin the work, this is obviously open to refinement in the future. Are we pretty good with it? Just as a way to get going?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think, Alice, you mentioned that maybe you and I would write number 1 and then have the board edit or reflect on it.
The
Organizational overview, history and
Yes.
accomplishments.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
yes, we would work
Yeah.
on that together. So that would be and then we jump into the focus areas. I realized that I started working a little bit on trails and facilities. And as I looked at our vision statement, which originally said, we envision a vibrant Mad River Valley where well-maintained and thoughtfully improved facilities and trails. I'm like, well, that's kind of what we do anyway. That's our mission. That's with our grant program. And so as I started thinking about that, and I had brought this up in our last meeting, what came up as partner organizations who were looking into their crystal ball was the word accessible. And so I wonder if maybe that would be a better, because I think the difference between your mission and your strategic plan 5-year scope, 2031, what is an initiative or initiatives that we are focusing on? And this would be more narrow. And when I think about accessibility, I think of it in two different ways. One in what we probably think more traditionally as adaptive trails and facilities, whether it's, people where you reduce physical barriers so that more people can access, whether it is, in a wheelchair, on a hand bike. But I also think of accessibility as increasing access in terms of availability of a facility. And I came to that just thinking about what some of the youth sports are struggling to have. To basketball, they can't find court space, or lacrosse can't, they're using the GMVS gym. What else could we do to increase availability? Lighting. I mean, and I don't know if there's a need. I mean, we had, if there was lighting up at the tennis courts, and this is something that the Warren Rec Committee is working a little bit on, but if there was lighting up at the pickleball and the tennis court or b-ball court, would it get more use? Would we bring more users in? So I revised the vision with your permission to think about that.
You mean without our permission?
No, I revised it with as a proposal.
Okay.
If you all think that is a better, more narrowly focused initiative for trails and facilities. And again, trails and facilities meaning operated by our partners. Does that make sense to narrow that?
I think you might lose people in the dual meaning of accessibility.
So let me, I'll open up did you see
I was
that?
just looking up, sorry.
Okay.
But I didn't read it. I just, I
Oh.
read Alice's email. She sent. In my head.
I worked on a very rough brainstorm collection of, well, what does accessibility look like? What does it mean? And I used a number of different websites, Crafting Inclusive Trails, Vermont Trails, and Greenway Accessible Hub. What does that look like? And that's more of the term in terms of, or accessibility in terms of adaptive. So that would mean for, it could be for senior citizens who are older. Do we have, what's the policy right now on e-bikes up in the Vimba trails, or on the, specifically the trails in the valley? Electric bikes?
There's no policy.
No policy. So, that would be for some riders. Me now, quite frankly, I don't ride single track like I used to, but being able to ride an e-bike would be helpful. And I know we often think about that in terms of, the recumbent leg cycles or, kneeling bikes or hand.
Like in the video.
Like in the videos, like in the video.
Never seen one.
And then I thought about so I'm thinking about accessibility being in two different, adaptive and availability, increased availability. And so I went through and what does accessibility look like? What are some of the considerations in terms of multiple users and environmental impacts? Are all trails and facilities open, feasible for adaptive? Wouldn't it be great if everything was adaptive? That's not going to be feasible. So this is a very rough collection of thoughts, looking at existing Mad River Valley trails and facilities. Right now, according to Vimba, Plan Your Ride, there are 8 areas that have adaptive mountain bike trails. One of them is Blueberry Lake. Go there, and is it all the trails? Does there, so I see that there needs to be, I don't propose that we're going to go out and create and build adaptive trails everywhere. It's just not going to be feasible. It's not, it's too costly. Not every trail is suitable. But if their Blueberry Lake, for example, has an adaptive trail, is it Tootsie Roll? Or is it all of them? And how was that communicated to users? Should the Rec Hub have, a place there where it says, here are accessible, adaptive opportunities in the valley? I don't, in terms of the path, it seems to me that there should be some, they're working on Waltz Way, is there, at least the path is posting that. Are there others? So,
And I think maybe we could be a convener or facilitator to say, Vermont Adaptive has this big presence in the Mad River Valley.
Mhm.
The Warren Elementary School is trying to build an adaptive playground, right? Which of the trails do we have that are the top candidates for becoming adaptive? Because it's just really expensive to make a trail adaptive, right? So, maybe that's something we could help riders in the path identify, or they already have. And then, we help with, funding over time or whatever, because you're not gonna be able to make them all adaptive, but we could say that's a priority for us and then help in some fashion, right? So.
I have that listed, thank you, Laura, for that, as a desired outcome. To have trail partners make a short list of possible future trails that
Good,
could be
yeah.
developed as adaptive. At the very least, if there are any in the Valley of Waltz Way, in fact, becomes an adaptive trail, or there's one or two or all of Blueberry Lake, we should help encourage partners to have communication that provides the information to users. And that would be, here are the locations, here are the conditions, here are, a rating scale of this is an easy adaptive, it's not, but at the very least, that needs to happen. So this is.
Like signage and the kiosk, all this stuff is such a missing part of at least the mountain bike trails.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
There isn't any information anymore.
Exactly, exactly. So if I was coming to the Mad River Valley and I was looking for an adaptive mountain bike trail, and I go to Vimba and I go, okay, I'm going to go to the Mad River Valley because it lists Blueberry Lake trails as being adaptive. And I get there and I'm like,
Right.
I'll tell you what, going on Tootsie ain't gonna work well in the, because it's got a
Or having
in
to
the
do it
mist.
6 times because it's the only one.
Or it's exactly. So where is that? Is it on a kiosk? Is it on a website? Does the Rec Hub? So not to get into the weeds of this as a focus area, but I think that what will happen is as subcommittees begin to tackle focus areas, we may come back and go, it requires a revisiting, a refinement of the vision.
Mhm.
So thoughts have committees? Any start yet on that?
Mhm.
So I will ask, since I have started this and communicated to Molly.
I really know.
Can you clarify? I don't want it to be this big. I want it to be this big, but when you talk about facilities and adaptive, I mean, are we going to include things like the dog park, the pump track, or are we really just talking about hiking trails and biking trails? Are we the Stadium? Jeff, probably they have lights already there. What about Couples Field? Do they have lights at Couples? I don't think
No,
they do.
no.
So, I mean, I don't even know if there is a need. Would Bocce have more users if they could be underneath the lights? Would they have more Little League tournaments if they were under the lights? I don't know.
I suppose it's a situation where you build it and they will come, but is the need there?
Right.
Or is it just gravy?
Right, I'll just from the Mad River Park meeting. It was interesting that the others were very dubious that lights were. I mean, a nice to have, but given the cost and what some of the other needs are there with regard to storage. Maybe potable water, bathroom, area for concessions, all these other things, like. They were thinking like, let's put the brakes on lights, look into a portable type of lighting scenario. Sorry to jump in
Well,
on.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's a good point, because we saw that in the write-up, but there's a big crunch at Harwood about having enough playing space. And so if there were lights at Mad River Park, you get more time. So our job as the rec district, Alice and I were talking about this, is to look at that bigger. Those people are only looking at kindergarten through sixth grade, I mean, that's like, so they have everything they need right now except for potable water.
Right, yeah.
So, we're trying to figure out, yeah, for the bigger community, what the needs would be, so. Lights are expensive, but so is building bathrooms, so,
Mhm.
but, so we have to kind of integrate. We have to explain to the committee, the Mad River Park Committee, what we're thinking about,
Right.
and then.
Yeah,
get feedback.
I mentioned that, the idea would be to address, middle school sports needs perhaps to a club, and they said, well, they don't like to leave their campuses, for the middle school sports. I guess that's a challenge, so we don't really want to like using Mad River Park, organized through the school, that would be an issue, but. if
Right.
Maybe
So-
the club scenario works.
And so we have to have more conversation with Harwood, because
Exactly.
we're assuming that it's pretty darn close from Harwood to Mad River Park,
It's very
but
close.
those
5
kids are not
minutes.
drivers.
Right.
So there has to be a bus or something like that, or maybe the warm up, they run over, I don't know. But,
No, it's not that
you
far.
know, it is really.
It's 3 miles.
Yeah. So anyway, but we need further conversations on both ends of this, yeah.
And I think what it highlights is as the subcommittees dive into their focus area, it forces us to consider, is there a bona fide need? And if not, then it gets, we take it out of the strategic plan. And I've listed all the possibilities. We really want to list playgrounds, and we know how expensive that is. So I think that that's part of the work of the subcommittees, is diving in and going, okay, what are the needs? And that will help, as you start thinking about your goals and
Yeah.
objectives.
On that, Alice, what more than some conversations with each other and the field committee and the athletics, but like, how much need identification do you see us doing for this strategic plan, right? Like, we could survey park users,
Yeah.
I think we want to do that, right? We want to get something short,
Remember that this has sort of has a 5-year.
right?
So it may, not to be totally fuzzy about this, but it may be something that we perceive as a need, and we say we're going to try to push towards this. Doesn't mean that we are actually going to accomplish it. That it is, so we may turn around and say, maybe that's part of an objective, is to identify needs.
Right.
I mean,
Okay.
it's certainly going to be in the, for the recreation center. We're not actually going to build it. But part of an objective is to gather the information that empowers us to decide as a rec district what we can do to support.
Yeah, that sounds good. You had to, and I know it's just an example, put lights up, but I don't think we even get there, by the time we want to go.
Oh, no. So you might be, so what I would say is it's all in the wording.
Sure.
The nuance of the wording
Mhm.
that leaves it open-ended enough to say, this is worthy of our attention, but we need to look at the feasibility
Mhm.
of it, assess needs. So I think are we good with the format of this?
Yeah.
And we're good with the revision of the draft statement on accessibility. See, this may turn around that the accessibility means adaptive only. As opposed to, and so, when we think about our next board meeting, which is going to be on the 14th, we're going to start a little bit early
At 6,
at
yeah.
6.
Should I get some food? Not as much food as I got the last time, but should I get some, or do we
If
just?
we
want
get
to
food,
go?
then it takes us 20 minutes
yeah.
to get going.
Yeah, How about I just get a
Maybe
snack?
Just bring some, yeah, snacks.
I get a
Snacks,
snack, not a meal.
eat
So
more.
eat, if
snack.
you're, if you need to eat dinner
Okay,
before,
so
bring it with you
yes,
and not
sure.
just get something light, okay.
Sorry, by myself.
So, with that in mind, let's set for ourselves some objectives of what to accomplish in preparation for that meeting. We now have a rough template. Subcommittees, thoughts on what you feel as if you could accomplish? I'm not by any means proposing that we're gonna sit down and have a rough draft of a strategic plan by the 14th.
Is that, is that meeting, are we gonna be in our groups during that meeting for the extent?
Well,
I thought we were gonna, this is what my vision is, that we would each get our sections kind of as far along as Alice did with the one she just showed us,
So we need to.
between now
Yeah.
and then. And then, present to the full group, and maybe that's when we do some editing, or somebody goes, yeah, that's really gonna be too expensive, or that's not as important as this, so.
So
I can send that out,
how many?
So
people-
what a
Molly, Mike
nerd.
and I are on the CRV group. So maybe after this meeting, we stay for a minute and figure out a time that would be a good meet.
Yep.
Alice already did all our workspaces.
We're missing Bear, but Doug and Corey, I feel like I can circulate my notes from this last field committee meeting.
Bear sent us something.
I think
Yeah,
so.
I haven't looked at that yet.
Yeah.
Maybe from that, we can.
Yep.
Start drafting something.
I think that at the, you can draft out at the very least why this focus area is important.
Mhm.
The values, so that's the goals.